people wouldn't know about these situations had they not been in hit songs. I was never considering doing a Jacksonville War documentary until Who I Smoke came out, and that got 20 million views, talking about smoking this person, that person on was a Vanessa Carlton sample, going absolutely viral. I heard that song. I wasn't even planning to do a video on it, and I was just like, let me Google the names in this song. I just want to know the story behind this. And I start looking into it, and I'm like, oh damn, this is a real kid. This is a 16-year-old kid, Bibby, that got killed. Whoa. Oh, this is another kid. And then you start to go, okay, let me hear a few Foolio songs. Oh, damn. Okay. You start piecing it together and telling the story. I wouldn't have had the first clue to even Google these names had Who I Smoke not been the biggest song of that summer or whatever it was.
And you don't use a Vanessa Carlton sample in hopes that people won't listen to your song. Like, clearly, that's an attempt to make a song that people are going to actually fucking listen to. And that's why they did the fun video at the golf course and all this shit. It's like, they didn't make that song to be an underground banger, which I guess you could say about a lot of the early O-Block stuff. All the drill shit is like, it wasn't exactly like being made to be consumed by a worldwide audience at that time.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's kind of genius what Young and Ace and those guys did with that song, because they kind of put their gang beef on the map. And they had people like me making 2-hour documentaries out of it, and they became household names. I can't take credit and say I played a part in getting them out there. But that song, Who I Smoke, put them on the map to a lot of people. And then people like me, Trap Geek, a lot of media then came out of that. And it's like, how can I ignore this song, Who I Smoke? You had Aiden Ross singing along, talking about smoking all these people and then getting pressed by Foolio. It's like, how is that? How can we just close our eyes and ignore that this is a massive story? Like,
But
I want to go back to what you were saying a second ago as well about, your UFC example was interesting, because I think the question of, do you think drill music is bad for society or whatever, I think that's like a corrupt question in itself. Because I think the drill music is just a symptom of a society where you've got, a lot of rundown areas where, young people might be minorities, might be black people, might be Hispanic people. In the UK, there's lots of different types of people from different backgrounds where the sort of hoods are, where the gangs kind of flourish. These are areas where there's a lot of fucked up shit going on. People are going through a lot of difficult stuff. There are these wars, these gang wars that have been passed down from generations. You've got young kids, 13, 14, they don't even know what they're getting dragged into, right? And in the end, the music has kind of become an escape for people to, I'm going to make some music about this fucked up, difficult environment that I'm living in and try and get out of it. And really, it's like, it's not, I don't think it's fair to be like, oh, the gang music, the drill music is causing all the crime. The crime would have been going on already. There was hella crime, hella shootings before drill music was going on. I mean, UK drill is a relatively new thing, but the history of UK gangs, the stabbings, the shootings, predates the music by decades. And there was road rap, which was like almost like the precursor to UK drill years ago. And no one was really listening or checking for road rap like they check for UK drill now. But it was the same shit. Guys that were in street situations, coming up out of really difficult, dangerous areas, telling their stories, talking about what they go through in their day-to-day life. And like realistically, that's the only glimpse that some people from the affluent areas would get of like what's really going on in the hood of Brixton or whatever. And it's kind of like I almost feel like it's an unfair question to just be like, well, is the drill music causing the violence or is academics causing the violence?
Okay, I tend to take these sorts of questions like extremely literally. So the way that I took that question when I was answering it is that I almost just imagined a hypothetical world in which there was no music about violence, or that there was no drill rap. Like, imagine if somehow in like when Biggie and Pac got killed, that there just was a law passed that you were just no longer allowed to rap about killing somebody, and that somehow that was actually possible for that law to be implemented, and that we right now lived in a world where Lil Durk could go on his Instagram story and smoke on his ops or something, but he couldn't put it in a song. I think that would be a world that was significantly less violent. There's significantly less murders committed, because there's something about music that it just is so infectious and people just love it so much. And the difference between like a Lil Durk interview, or I guess Lil Durk wouldn't do this, but like an interview with some random O-Block guy where he basically says, fuck Wooski. The difference between him saying that in an interview is that the interview is going to get a couple 100,000 views maybe, and that literally King Von has songs where he's talking shit about Wooski that have like hundreds of millions of plays, and that you just hear it over and over and over to the point where Wooski becomes this larger than life villain in your fucking head, and then makes you want to go out and dig through random truth teller videos to figure out more more about who this guy is and everything. And I'm sure that Wooski's aware of this dynamic where he's basically famous for a bunch of shit that, I mean, he obviously was a willing participant in some of it, but then, you know, King Von comes along and just starts talking about him and makes him just way more of a figure. I mean, if that didn't exist, the world would probably be a better place. Now, that's not realistic, but if it was somehow, if all the old head rappers were able to just somehow create a change where rappers just didn't do it so much, maybe if it was lessened by 50%, I mean, that would be a better world to live in.
Well, the music is definitely offensive. Like when rappers are going on the mic talking about we smoke on Tuka, you know what I'm saying? There's interviews with Tuka's mum. Like that stuff's hurtful and it's offensive.
Yeah.
So
well,
I
man,
totally
when you
agree.
watch that shit was heavy.
Yeah.
Seichi's deserves their flowers for doing that, because that watching his mom talk was tough for me.
Well, I think that's the aspect of these stories that really gets left behind. And that's why when I did my FBG Duck video, you know, it's 2.5 hours. There's a lot that I cover in there, but I made sure that I put in, you know, there's a good 15, 20-minute segment where I'm just talking about Duck's mum and what she went through having to listen to this music. What was her reaction when Should Have Duck came out and was charting? And that's the aspect of the story that's forgotten. But then going back to the kind of the popularity of the music, I think one of the, like, you're kind of right. You know, everybody talking about Wooski this, Wooski that, they're smoking on Tuka. Obviously, that definitely is going to inflame things. But on the other hand, you got to say, well, Tuka, for example, right? He was killed before Chief Keef was even like a big artist, right? So the violence in that area was already going on. Young people were getting killed. The same groups were going at it. And it only just so happened, you know, a year or two after Tuka got killed, then Chief Keef becomes famous. And Chief Keef wasn't really, you know, Chief Keef had some cases or whatever, but he wasn't gangbanging like your King Vons or whatever, right? Like, he was making music, and it's kind of like, you know, I feel like...
But he was enticing that shit, even later in his career, too, because I was listening to fucking Earned It by him the other day, and he's just, take a Tuka blunt and I burn it. And I'm just thinking in my head, like, bro, he had been away from that shit for so long at that point, and that's still at the front of his fucking mind, is to just throw a little dirt on that guy's name.
But then Tuka got killed before Chief Keef was really rapping like that, right? So it's hard to say, you know, the music's responsible for the violence, because before Chicago drill was even a thing, these murders were going on, right? So it's almost like, I don't know, I definitely can see where you're coming from, but I also just feel like just blaming the music. I think there's a lot of underlying socioeconomic reasons for gang violence, gang warfare, people being put in these situations and like coming up in these areas that are so messed up that they don't really get a fair chance at life. And I think it's like you say, if we banned drill music tomorrow or banned academics, bro, people are still going to be killing each other in areas where there's gang affiliations going on, because they were before the music.
And academics is the least of fucking people's problems, because he don't even talk about like super small artists, you know? It's like, realistically, in the wake of academics not really talking about all these smaller artists, you have the 1090 Jakes of the world and all these different people who are covering people who are not even fucking famous in any way. You know, Ack never really did that. He was still talking about some dude who was a rapper, and maybe he's not like a super popular rapper, but he got killed, so he's doing a video about it with Jake and all these other people. I mean, it's just clear that this is something that people want to hear about, so people are going to make content about it, you know?
Well, you know, it's news, it's media, it's journalism. Like, if people want to know about the crimes going on in their city, I mean, I'm interested in the crime news in my area, and they're not drilling. Like, if some dude has a domestic violence case and kills his wife like a few streets over from me, I want to read about that on the news. I want to know what's going on in my community, and no one's making drill songs about that.
All right, people, we just hit 300,000 subscribers. You know we're trying to hit 400,000 subscribers. So that little red button, tap it, tap in. We appreciate y'all.